Hello everyone, welcome to another Voice Essentials live hangout. It is so good to have you joining us today, Monday the 6th of August. Of course, for many of you, it's still the 5th of August. I hope you've had a great weekend. We're just getting into the beginning of our new week here, and it's lining up to be a good week, a full week. I hope it is for you also. Today we are going to be doing mostly Q&A, so I can see some great questions already lining up in, I'm looking that way because I'm looking at a screen over here, but in fact you can all see it just there. We're going to be doing some Q&A, so I can see some really good Q&A already coming up on the screen, which is fantastic. Good to have Telegram Sam with us. Yuhui, hello. Eric, nice to have you. And Linda, of course, and Laura. So make sure you list your questions. We'll be getting to those actually very soon because that's really what I want to do today. We haven't had a lot of a chance to really answer your questions recently. Of course, we've been answering questions directly following our guest shows. Look, if you didn't catch last week's guest, Ken Bozeman, you've got to go and check that video out after this show today, but make sure when you do, make sure you've got a good solid hour with a really strong beverage to see you through, because it is really challenging mental stuff. You can't just sort of listen lightly. You've really got to engage, and in fact it's probably going to take 2 or 3 passes of that video to really get a hold of the implications that he listed off in that video. So yeah, if you missed it, check it out. If you did catch it last week, and many of you did, then please watch it again, because you know all of our guests bring so much to the channel and give us so much of their expertise, but Ken's work is so cutting edge and it's so, I was explaining to a student today that it is so in the arena of acoustics and physics, and that I've really had to go through it a couple of times to sort of really, get the meat out of it. And so I really encourage you to do that today. Hey, wanted to also let you know that Jody, I'm going to be showing you some holiday pics a little bit later. In fact, not a little bit later, very soon. As you know, I'm a keen, very amateur photographer. I really enjoy photography just as a way to relax, and it's a creative outlet. And we were recently down in Sydney. Actually, we stayed about an hour north of Sydney in a little alcove, a little beach alcove called Pearl Beach, and I've got some shots of there as well. It was gorgeous. It was such a beautiful place to stay. But we also took the kids in with my sister-in-law and her husband, Belinda and Michael. We took all our kids into Taronga Zoo, which is probably one of Australia's most famous zoos. Certainly here in Australia, it's a very well-known zoo. And it overlooks the Sydney Opera House and the harbour. It's the most amazing place to visit. We had a great time. And of course, we took my son's bucket list goal. He's 13. How do you have a bucket list at 13? I don't know, but nonetheless, he had a goal to go to the Sydney Opera House. So we took him to the outside of it, and he now thinks I'm a bit of a champion because I've sung in the Opera House a number of times. But nonetheless, we took him to the outside, and so he got to tick that off, and I've got some photos of that. I'll show you those in a moment. But I wanted to update you on Jody's health, and really it's all good news. Jody, for those of you who don't know, Jody, my wife, literally this week, 12 months ago, was diagnosed with bowel cancer. Stage 3 bowel cancer, very serious, and it completely rocked our world. I shared the story on one of these live hangouts, actually, probably about 9 months ago. If you want to hear the full story, you can go and watch that. We've been on the journey of surgery and then chemo and then recovery ever since. And so last week, what they do here in Australia, is they will do a colonoscopy essentially on the anniversary of the first diagnosis, the first discovery of that of that tumor in this case. And so last week Jody had that colonoscopy, and it's all clear. No sign of cancer. All of her bloods are showing no signs of cancer. And for all accounts and purposes, for the foreseeable future, Jody has a absolutely clear, clean bill of health. And we are so thankful. We're so thankful to our friends and family that have really supported us and carried us. And we're also very thankful to you guys. So many of you here as a part of the Voice Essentials community have been so kind enough to I guess share and write words of support and prayers to us, which I've always handed on to Jody, and I know it's been very supportive to her, but it's been really supportive to me, and I am really thankful to all of you for your support. So just wanted to update you on that. Jody's doing really well. In fact, she's just left, actually literally 20 minutes ago, left to go to the conference that she just simply was too unwell to go to 12 months ago, prior to the colonoscopy that then discovered that she had cancer. So that's a real, I don't know, a moment in time, a line in the sand, if you like, and we are very much hoping that now we can get on with our lives. And, you know, there's some mental resilience, some psychology resilience to build around what many people refer to as scanxiety. And we've certainly experienced that in the lead up to her scans and her colonoscopy. And there's this emotional turmoil as you approach. And if you've experienced cancer in your own life or in a loved one's life, then you probably know what I'm talking about. It's this turmoil and sort of anxiety. You feel anxious into the lead up to these scans. So we've got to build some resilience to that, and I'm sure, well, the reality is we're going to be given lots of practice over the coming years, as Jody, you know, every 3 months has to meet with either her gastroenterologist or her oncologist. So I'll keep you up to speed, but really for now, I think that's a chapter closed, we're hoping, and very much hoping that it's a chapter closed. Just wanted to update you on that. Now, just to let you know another thing too, before we get into looking at the photos, I'm thinking of putting together a Facebook group. I kind of feel like I would love to interact with you guys a little bit more. I would love to, probably even more so, create an opportunity for you to interact more with one another. And I'm thinking that a Facebook group may well be the place to do that. I've seen Facebook groups done very well. Unfortunately, I've seen them done very poorly. We don't want to create, you know what we're trying to do here at Voice Essentials community. We're trying to create a community that is supportive, encouraging, respectful, all the things that sadly, sometimes we don't see that in Facebook groups and here online. But that is definitely what we want to see here on Voice Essentials. So I'm just looking into it at the moment. I'm exploring the idea. Leave me some thoughts in the comments, in the chat if you're watching live. And hello if you're not watching live. Of course, many of you watch this show in replay. And I always love the fact that you guys take the time to watch the show in replay. But look, if you are watching the show live, let me know what you think of the idea of a Facebook group that we can dedicate to our community here at Voice Essentials. And if you are watching it as a replay, then hey, leave a comment. Let me know what you think, whether you think that would be a positive thing, not only to build community, but also to help you in your development. Of course, I would probably identify a couple of people to help me moderate the group. But beyond that, I'd want us to sort of, you know, the community to build a culture that is supportive and encouraging, very much like what we do here on the channel. So that's what I'm thinking. Hey, quick update on Voice Essentials 2. It's so close, everyone. Voice Essentials 2. You can see down here the CD, the exercise CD cover for Voice Essentials 1. which has got 17 exercises on it. Why 17? Well, that's just how many we did in Voice Essentials 2. It's kind of weird, but we've arrived at having 17 tracks for Voice Essentials 2. Sorry, Voice Essentials 1 has got 17, and that's where we've arrived at with Voice Essentials 2 as well, because we thought we were going to have. I thought we were going to have 15 tracks. And then as we got into the studio, we went, oh, we could do this and we could do that. And so we added a couple of tracks. And so once again, we've got 17 tracks. This next exercise CD, if you already own Voice Essentials 1, you really need to get Voice Essentials 2. I am really excited about this next step. It is going to challenge you to go the next level. It really, if you think of Voice Essentials 1 as sort of a beginner level, Voice Essentials 2 takes it up a notch. It's going to require your voice to really go that next step and to develop beyond what it's learned in Voice Essentials 1. I cannot wait enough to release it to you. Be on the lookout. First week of September, I'm hoping. I'm in the studio again. We've just got to rejig a couple of things in the studio on Saturday coming. Then once we do that, then we'll master it, because I want to give you guys the best possible recording product that I can give you. So we'll go to the extent of mastering it, and then hopefully we'll be able to get it out to you via the website. So I'll keep you up to date with that as it draws closer. I'm so excited. I really am. It's going to be. My producer has a grin from ear to ear every time we get into. Especially there's 2 or 3 tracks in there. They're just really cool. And I mean, they're all cool, but there's 2 or 3 that I think you're just going to love. So I'll keep you up to date. So yeah, let's have a look at a few photos, and I hope this is not too self-indulgent. But I know that oh look, I love my photography. I really do. I love and I love sharing it with people. So what I've put together is just a little slideshow that hopefully that you'll be able to hear me talk over as we go. But let's have a watch. There's a little bit of music to it just to set the ambiance. I hope you enjoy this. So that is my gorgeous family at the Opera House. Well, the Opera House, that's the Opera House, and before it was the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And this is me getting all sort of stylistic. And up in there, that's where I've performed, up inside the Opera House there. Me getting all sort of photography with it. Now, this is where we stayed. Absolutely picturesque. It was such a beautiful spot. And the weather was just fantastic. There's one of the locals. and a little bit of... Yeah, so I hope you're enjoying this. Just to share a bit of Australia with you, because a lot of you haven't been to Australia, and it really is such a gorgeous place. That's my son. He's a bit of a poser, to be honest. He's a great guy. Oh dear. And we walked around those heads a number of times. It was just absolutely beautiful. This is sort of heading into some of the shots that I was able to get at Taronga Zoo. Australian locals. I don't know that he's Australian local. Is it? They're my 3 children. Well, that's not my 3 children. That's one of the zoo locals. Another one, the giraffe. That guy was sunning himself. He was a little character. Little meerkat. There's my wife, Jody. Elephants. One of the famous Sydney ferries. This is the view from Taronga Zoo. It was absolutely amazing. I don't know what they call that. That's a bear of some kind. They've got a gondola that runs all the way through the centre of Taronga Zoo that you catch from the bottom up to the top again. There's Jody, Caitlin and Jaden, my 2 kids. I took that for all the voices, all the teaching people who might have enjoyed the idea of seeing lungs in steel form. This was a walk we did at Pearl Beach. Had some beautiful, oh no, that's Caitlin, my daughter, and my wife, Jody. Rock face at Pearl Beach. That's my youngest, Tara. Oh, so as you can see, yeah, just enjoy taking some shots, some family shots. I must have taken over 1,000 shots. It would be way over 1,000 actually during the week. And that's just a handful of them. And hopefully you get an idea of some of our wonderful flora and fauna down here. And I see Linda has suggested that that's a red panda. Yeah, Linda, I think you're right. I think that is a red panda. They don't look much like a panda. They're very small. They climb trees, but I think you're right, Linda. I think it was a red panda. So I think it's time that we get into some Q&A together. And I've seen there's been a whole heap of questions, so I'm looking forward to coming back and answering your questions. So we'll come back right after this. Okay, so let's jump in here, and I'm just going to bring up Linda asking. Linda, I wonder if have we got a new docs, questions for docs? I'm not seeing them here, but that's okay because I can quickly go through here, and so I'm not seeing, for some reason, Linda, I can't see. For everyone who doesn't know, Linda, who you can see is one of our moderators, actually helps by doing a number of weeks back. We started doing these live Google Docs, which helps me to sort of scan through some of the photos. Linda, I'm not seeing where we're up to today, so what I might do is just literally go back up here, because I do know that there was some questions right back up on top. So, for example, Eric. Eric's asking, can you share a question? Yeah, start asking your questions in the live chat, everyone, and I'll do my very best to answer if I'm able to, because the harsh reality of life is Daniel doesn't know everything, but Daniel will do his best. Yahui, okay, saying yes. Oh, and he's very good about answering questions. That is very nice, Yahui. Thank you. That's a vote of support. Okay, so Telegram Sam is saying here, in fact, I wonder if I go to, let me come up to, I wonder if this will be a better place. No, I think I'll just leave it on that page. Telegram Sam, this question is regarding the speaking voice. How do you go about finding the natural placement of the speaking voice? Interesting question. Now, Sam has gone on to qualify that, everyone, by saying, my old singing teacher who I visited recently told me that I should use my lower register as a part of my speaking voice. When I tried to purposefully talk lower, I felt my neck muscles tighten and had a lot of discomfort. May I have your thoughts on the matter? Interesting question, Telegram. So, the scenario with when it comes to, well, first of all, the way that many speeches will help you to orientate to your optimal speaking pitches, which is what it's often referred to. Now, let me just come back over here so we can be. So the optimal speaking pitch is, if I was to ask any of you, and you can do this at home while we're watching, if I was to ask you to, if I said, did you have dinner tonight? And if you were to respond by going, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, and so it's very much a, And so you're answering, you're not answering yes or no. We're hoping to ask you a question that you can give an affirmative answer to. So it's very much, did you have dinner tonight? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so there is my optimal speaking pitch. And so the interesting thing about that is more often than not always, there's no always in life, is there? But not always, well, there is. If you jump out of a plane, you will always hit the ground if you don't have a parachute. In voice, it's not always the case. More often than not, if you respond and get that placement of mm-hmm, mm-hmm, often that optimal speaking pitch will sit slightly higher than what the voice naturally wants to, revert to, which is often a little bit lower, and especially in modern day where a lot of Gen Y young people, especially young females, will want to get into that, and it sounds really sophisticated and sexy, and that's vocal fry. And in fact, that is really wearing and tearing on the voice. It means you're paying full price. In fact, you're paying an exorbitant price for voice use if you're doing that constant fry. And so it's about keeping the voice up and forward, mm-hmm, and the voice will often sit, its fundamental pitch is often, when you respond with that, is often higher than you might be normally given to speaking. Because when the voice gets tired, it does sort of get down into sort of that really, I feel really tired, and it's, and so keeping the voice up and forward. Now, so that's a good way to find the optimal pitch. But then Telegram Sam has gone on to ask, so my old singing teacher recently told me that I should use my lower register as a part of my speaking voice. Well, Sam, I think the reality is that most of us do employ the thyroarytenoid muscle, the vocalis muscle, the body of the vocal fold, which is generally the muscle that is the dominant player in lower chest register, shortener dominant, M1 mode, whatever the language you want to use. It is, and it's mostly used in speech. So if you are constantly talking like this, then you're hopping outside of that. And so you can see that there's a big difference there, yeah? I suddenly switched, and suddenly my voice is not speaking in its normal range. And so that sounds, firstly, it sounds a little bit weird, but also that's going to really tire quite quickly. Whereas if I'm able to, naturally employ my shortener, dominant lower register sound, all while maintaining an optimal speaking pitch, a fundamental that is placed up and off the larynx, that's more visual, a placement that is causing the voice to not sit heavy, and then that is going to be a great place for you to regularly talk. I wonder, Sam, whether you have fallen into a trap or been inadvertently misled to think that you've got to sort of sit the voice really low and become very fee-fi-fo-fum with it. And so it's a matter of finding your optimal speaking pitch and trying to sit the voice there. It can be hard too, because you may not be comfortable with hearing yourself sit the voice as high as it may need to. And so you have to reconcile that to yourself, Sam. So see how you go. I very much doubt that your singing teacher was encouraging you to impose on the larynx and go looking for a bigger, sort of meatier sound. Go back to the mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where the voice probably needs to sit. And you can hear, even in my voice, that reorientated me up into a more forward placement. So hopefully that is helpful. Coming down here. Hang on a second. Sorry, everyone. Just looking here. We've got a few questions, which is fantastic. Laura is asking, how do I support my voice? And Corso Brothers Music did say, that I did a video on that a while ago. I certainly have done a video on that course, and you can check it. Go looking for that on the channel page. Incidentally, if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Go and visit the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the white bell icon, because that's the only way that you're going to be notified regularly to come and join us in these live Hangouts every Monday at 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So Laura, the word support, and I must admit, I'm not a great fan of the word support. Not because there's anything wrong with it, and if you have a singing teacher or you come across someone that does singing teaching and uses the word, there's nothing wrong with that. I find that the word support, for me, and often I see it in my Australian students, has this sense of sort of toy soldier, rigid, really solid abdominal wall that doesn't have the freedom to release, or what the accent breath method people call a splat. Singers, please loosen abdominal tension. And so I don't tend to use the word support, and I certainly wouldn't want to use the word support and direct that towards your abdominal wall, your abdominus rectus. I would want, if you're looking for structure across the torso, you want to go looking for it in your obliques. Now, I think, Laura, you went on to ask, do you need a strong core for singing? Is doing push-ups before singing in order to warm up a good idea? Pilates can be a good thing for singers in the sense that it creates a sense of tone and physical orientation. That being the word core is where we tend to derive that idea from, having this sense of abdominal support and oblique support. I wouldn't use that term anyway. Oblique support. However, I don't necessarily think for most people doing sit-ups before they sing is that's often not going to be a good idea, because what sit-ups may well do, especially for people who don't have a developed core support, it could cause a really high level of tension through the neck and through the shoulders, and create a lot of sternocleidomastoid engagement, which will lock everything down, and therefore you're in a position of and it's creating way too much load on the larynx at a time when you probably just want to be warming and preparing it for use. So just be conscious of that. Probably not a good idea to get into over creating too much support. I hope that's helpful, Laura. Turquoise skies is just, I think, identifying that yes, the last week's video was incredibly detailed. I'm just going to come back over to our Google Doc and see if just letting you know, Linda, I still can't see our Google Doc, so that for whatever reason today is not working. That's okay, we can continue through here. Jean Bradley is asking, how often should one have a one-on-one vocal lesson? That's a really good question, Jean. In my studio, I do have a policy of either weekly. I provide either weekly or fortnightly. I learned a couple of years ago that you Americans, certainly I don't know, Jean, whether you're American, but Americans don't know the term fortnightly. You refer to it as bi-weekly. And so the reason I do that, weekly or fortnightly lessons, is because so some people do ask me, can they do one lesson every 3 weeks? Can they do a monthly lesson? I'm a great believer in, certainly when it comes to one-on-one lessons, I want to work with my students to develop some momentum around their learning. And what I find is that when we're doing a monthly, like a lesson here and there, it can be very challenging to build a pedagogical, like a learning momentum. certainly doing one-off lessons here and there to sort of stopgap things and sort of problem solve, that certainly can be helpful, and there's a place for that. But with my students, I always encourage people towards a long-term view of the development of their voice. Try not to be, that gap-filling sort of, try not to orientate to your voice learning as gap-filling. Certainly now that the Voice Essentials 2 program is about to come out, the CDs, and a little heads up, I am going to be, and I'll be telling you guys more about this once we get the launch of Voice Essentials 2 out of the way. I am going to be telling you about an online course that I will be designing that is going to be phasmagorical. It is going to be amazeballs, and I'm daunted by the workload that it is going to be to put it together. But essentially what it's going to be is it's going to be an opportunity to walk you through, step by step, the development of a voice that is technically sound, that builds stamina, and just takes you along a journey. But that's the key. More about that in about 6 or 8 weeks. We'll tell you more about that. But look, I want you to really approach your learning as a journey. And therein lies the benefit of working with a singing teacher. They can step alongside you and take you on a journey that they too have. A good singing teacher will have trod that journey themselves and with others. And you want that teacher to help you to develop, and to take you on a journey. And so I think weekly or fortnightly is no longer than a fortnight. I mean, unfortunately, if I don't see a fortnightly student, whether they're sick or they're away, it means it's a month. And without fail, that the student will often say, I haven't seen you for a month. It's been a long time. And in the initial stages of learning, that can feel like forever. Now, ultimately, we don't want the learner, the student singer, to become reliant on the teacher. That is, we're not trying to build a codependency between student and teacher. But in the initial stages, the ability to walk alongside someone regularly is such a positive. And for ones like myself, the teacher, can be a highly rewarding experience. And so I hope I didn't go into too much detail. There is a 2-part video that I did about 3 months ago where we talked about what to look for in a singing teacher. What are the responsibilities of the student and what are the responsibilities of the teacher? Go and check, go looking for those on the channel if you can. Sean Patino from Colombia. Nice to have you here. Thank you for joining in. You love watching the videos. Thank you. I'm glad you've learnt something from them. Okay, coming down here. Laura is saying a Facebook group would be phenomenal. Well, that's good, Laura. Thank you. I should probably... I know I'm looking over here and you guys can't really see what I'm looking at. Maybe this view will look a little bit smarter when we're looking that way instead of looking. Anyway, okay, Matt, one of our regulars here. Good to have you here, Matt. Question: I have been told that I should work on my total range, and also that I should only work on my bass register. What should I do? Who should I listen to? Yes, Matt, this is one of the challenges of the online space. And look, the funny thing about this is you could watch any number of people, singing teachers or so-called singing teachers here on YouTube, say exactly what I'm about to say. And the reason they would say exactly what I'm about to say is because really when they say it, and to a certain extent because what I'm about to say, they want you to look to them as the authority online. And so that's understandable. We're all trying to, etch out a place, I guess, here online. I guess, Matt, the challenge for you is to identify, and I'm not going to tell. I've said here many times on the channel, I am not a guru. I don't claim to be a guru. I don't know everything there is to know about voice. I mean, seriously, everyone, last week's video with Ken Bozeman was as much an education for me as it was for you. And I am doing so much reading at the moment on that subject that we covered last week. And I still felt like a freshman. So there is so much to know about voice that even to claim guru status, I think it's a highly dangerous thing to claim, and it verges on arrogance if it isn't arrogant. And so I think we have to be really careful. Now, there are some people here on YouTube who you can trust. I would like to think that I'm one of them, not because everything I say is beyond a shadow of a doubt perfect. What you can trust from me is that I do research. I have a doctorate in voice teaching in the area of, I codified a group of singings, but I've been teaching for 21 years. I have a massive library that I can refer to. I don't only rely on my own voice. Where am I going with this? What I'm trying to say, Matt, is the biggest challenge we have is when we open up our development to a multiplicity of voices, we do run the risk of exposing ourselves to where you, the student, have to become the expert enough to make the decisions as to who's right and who's wrong. There's an old proverb: a house divided against itself can't stand. When you're in that level of indecision, that creates a really rocky space for you, and in this case, your voice. Yeah? You can't have too many cooks in the kitchen. Someone has to be in charge. Yeah? And so sometimes, especially when you're starting out, it can be a really important thing to behold yourself to a singular voice. And Matt, I'm not going to tell you that that's me. You need to find someone that you resonate with and you feel comfortable with, and go a journey with that person. Now, you've heard me say many times that there is wisdom in the counsel of many, and that is true. But it's a matter of collecting wise people that you know you can trust. Now, in my humble opinion, I think the people that you can trust here, I'm not going to tell you who you can't trust because that's not my place. But I do want to, again, you've heard me speak many times, and she's not on here with us today, I don't think, but Karen from Singwise is a person who diligently desires to understand the voice and all the things we continue to discover. I've watched a number of Justin's video on New York Voices, New York Vocal Coaching, I think he calls himself. Really great channel. I think that guy knows his stuff, and that's a voice you can listen to. And there are a number of other channels on here that you can really take away as being a voice that you can trust. So, Matt, back to your question, if I can find it. Yeah. Should you work on your whole register? Yes. Matt, you are not one register. You are one voice with many registers. What you have to learn to do is be able to develop those individual registers so that they work as one. Yeah, so that you are able to freely move between the registers of your voice. Now, that can mean, so for example, in my studio, I'll often, with most students, not all, most students, we will often focus in on the lower register to start. Now that'll probably be for, often we do that for the first 2 or 3 lessons. But by about lesson 4, lesson 5, we're starting to explore the upper register. We're starting to get the voice to move freely, yeah, and have agility. That doesn't mean the transitions are smooth by that point, incidentally. It means that we're starting to get the voice to go into upper register. And there's in fact, the first exercise on Voice Essentials 2 is about sirens. It's about moving the voice freely across the entire range. So should you work on your lower register and your, I think the way you said it, Matt, was the total, I've been told I should work on my total range and I should work on bass register. Should you work on your bass register, your lower register? Yes. Should you work on your entire register, your entire voice? Yes. Does that answer your question? I went in a direction with all of that I didn't intend on doing today, but there you go. I hope that's helpful. Coming down, Bree would love a Facebook group. She's living in Canada and she can't always make it to the live videos. Good to have you here today, Bree. I think an FB group would be a great way to, yeah, I'm starting to think that's the way to go, Bree. And so watch this space. Let's see how we go. And Rosemary has been so kind as to say we've got a beautiful family. Thank you, Rosemary. Coming down. I think we'll do a couple more questions and then we're going to get on. Raphael has asked, do you need to take a lot of breath with twang? No. And I'm not suggesting that you were suggesting you should. Raphael, the key aspect of twang, one of the key ingredients of twang is in how little air it uses. And twang falls in and out of favor. It's not with me. I have enjoyed and taught its wonderful benefits for 20 years because I think it's fabulous. That being said, I've never been under any misnomer as to what it does, what it serves, and what its benefits are, but also how to set it up. And I think the reason it falls out of favor is because if you are placing too much pressure, too much airflow behind it, because it's already a narrow space immediately above the vocal folds in the laryngopharynx, because there's already a shaping that is narrow, if there's too much pressure, the larynx will be caused to brace even further, and you get what we refer to as supraglottic constriction. Supra being above the vocal folds, and so everything will brace down, and suddenly you've got tension, you've got constriction. And so one of the great things about twang is in how little air it uses. It uses, I say to my students, it runs on the smell of an oily rag. And in fact, you can be surprising how much more voice you'll get when you use less air when you're employing twang. So I've got a whole video dedicated to that very topic. So Raphael, make sure you jump across to the channel after the video and go and check it out because you just go. I think it's "Do you have enough twang in your voice?" It's titled something like that. It's one of my older videos. But also, if you go to the home page of the channel and go right to the bottom, I think you will see a thing that shows these live hangouts. I think there's a video. Actually, one of the most watched live videos that I have is about how to do twang. So go and check it out. I think you'll enjoy that. Just coming down here. How am I? Red Panda. I'm trying to find a question that I can answer. Calling Sherlock Holmes. I'm missing something there, Yahui. I'm not sure what's going on. Phantasmagorical. Yeah, that's it. Phantasmagorical. Love that song by the Carpenters. I don't know what you're all referring to there. Raphael's asks, we answered that question. Eric has asked a question. Let's give the last question. In fact, all of you can see it on the screen there. What is the difference between absolute and perfect pitch, and how can it apply to singing? Well, Raphael, interesting. I would generally, I think most people refer to it as perfect pitch. My understanding is that perfect pitch is more correctly called absolute pitch. Now, I well could be wrong on that. That is my understanding. Absolute pitch or perfect pitch, and I've always thought of them as being synonymous, is where the person can actually pick. In fact, my last student that just was with me before this live hangout, he has absolute pitch, perfect pitch, and he can tell if I ever go trying to fool him and transpose my keyboard, he will know that I've done that because he can tell. He doesn't have to see the keyboard, he just has to hear the note and he'll go, that's an A or that's an F sharp or what have you. Now, I saw there is a really interesting, you can go looking for this on YouTube. It's not one of my videos, where you've possibly seen the gentleman who plays at the piano playing all different chords for a young boy, and he would be only 10, 12, 11, and he has absolute pitch and is able to sing exactly these complex chords. It's amazing to watch. That particular gentleman who does it with the boy, he has a channel, and he's just recently, which I did not watch, but I saw the title, and the title was Why Adults Can't Develop Absolute Pitch. Or he might have even said Why Adults Can't Develop Perfect Pitch. One of the two. Go and check it out. Again, I haven't watched the video, so maybe the title is a tease to actually tell you that they can. I would be super interested to learn that they can, because my understanding is that the brain kind of sets, and the audible ability to hear perfectly or absolutely is set after a certain age. Now, I could be wrong, happy to be corrected. If you know different, leave a comment if you're watching this after as a replay, or leave let us know here. Eric, now what I was going to say, Eric, is there is a difference between relative pitch, and you've just made the question there. You meant the difference between relative and perfect. So relative is where you learn to, and in fact, I wonder if my keyboard's in. Now, so relative pitch is where you learn to associate a certain note, and you're able to sort of, so for example, you might know where your bottom note is, yeah? Or you might know where your top note is, and you are able to relatively judge where that is. Now, so let's see how I go. I have relatively good relative pitch, but relative pitch is not absolute, it's not perfect. And I have a pretty good relative pitch around a particular E4, right? So E4 being a note that I often sing with students, with female students. Yeah, yeah. Let's see how I go. Oh, I can't hear that. Hang on a second. I can't. I'm trying to play. Let's see, pull this out. So I was a tone off. I was up on G4. So I actually did mean to say F4. Regardless, I was still a tone off. See, I'm not even picking the notes correctly. So it's a matter of, some people's relative pitch is so good that they could fool you into believing that they've got absolute pitch when in fact they don't. So I missed it by a tone. Oops. So you can see the fragility of relative pitch, and that's the difference. Absolute pitch, a person, they don't need a keyboard to check. They just know. And some people have described they see their absolute pitch or perfect pitch as color. And so like I might see a yellow or a green and a blue. A person sees a C as a particular color. Regardless, for example, Renee, who is the female vocal on Voice Essentials 1 and is the female vocal on Voice Essentials 2. She has absolute pitch. She's a freak of nature, that woman. And her musician skills are just off the chart. Wow, she's amazing. So, yeah, hopefully that is helpful. Well, this has been a good hangout. Linda has to go. I know Linda has to go. She's got to go off and do the school pickup. So we need to finish up. It's good to have spent some time with you guys. Let me just come over to here. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you. Now, next week, before we go, next week we are having one of, she's kind of like a stateswoman in the world of voice pedagogy, in the world of singing teachers, Mary Beth Dame. She has been, she is an older lady, and she would want to be because she's been teaching for decades and has got a very well-known book called The Dynamics of the Singing Voice. It's in its 5th or 6th edition. It is so highly respected. Dr. Mary Beth Dame will be joining us next week. Please hit that white bell icon to ensure that you get the notification so you can come and join us next Monday, 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I don't want you to miss it. She's going to share so much wisdom, and so much experience. This lady, her book was so helpful in as I researched and developed my doctoral work many years ago. And so I'm really looking forward to having Dr. Dame here on the channel. I hope you'll join with us as well. Of course, if this is the first time you've ever joined us, I hope you subscribe and join our ever-growing community of singers from across the globe who, just like you, want to raise their voice in song. I really do hope you can come and join us again next week. And don't forget to hit that white bell icon. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. I look forward to doing it again next week. I'll see you again very soon. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.